everyone, I'm Christina, and today in North Houston, Texas, we're having a lot of cloud coverage and a lot of crazy rain, flooding expected. So today I thought it would be best to go ahead and do a recording and upload it to YouTube. And so I'm doing this with StreamYard. I'm hoping it works out. I can figure all this out. But I wanted to go ahead and go over some headline news with you, end times headline news, right? Because the world is changing very, very fast in pretty much every department, like planet wise, people wise, everything. So, I'll have to include the links later because it's not the same as setting this up on YouTube, but I will. And yes, like, subscribe, comment, share. I want to thank you for your ongoing generosity because it is really helping my family out right now. And I thank God for you. God bless you for that. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get into this. What do you say? All right. First article. It's going to be the main picture on this. And the title of it is They're Getting Ready for the Downfall of America. Just don't call them preppers. After an hour of driving down winding dirt roads without cell reception, I caught up with the plume of dust billowing behind Jesse Fisher's pickup. We were headed for the same destination, the only one for miles in any direction. Okay, we're going to skip down a little bit to get to the point. It says disaster preparedness is on the rise, in large part because disasters are as well. From the supply chain shortages caused by lockdowns to the climate crisis, from wars in Ukraine and Gaza to tech driven loneliness, from one runaway disinformation to intractable political polarization. More people are asking, am I better off being hyper dependent on the global industrial economy? Would it be safer to grow my own food, store my own water, and not depend on complex systems I don't understand? This is main this is in the main news. It's not just this backdoor like quiet giggle thing. They're talking a lot of the points that people like us have been pointing out the entire time. Disasters can happen at any time, and you have to be ready for that. And it goes sort of to the wise and unwise virgins. Some were ready, some weren't, but they knew something big was coming, but they just didn't quite get it together. And in other cases, some people had what they needed, but if they shared, they wouldn't have enough for themselves. And that's kind of the prepper mentality. It's not just a mentality, it's the truth of it. Be a wise bride. The second article says NATO says Western civilians should prepare for all-out war with Russia. Do you understand? We're the West. NATO is telling the West, and not the government, not the border people like border patrol. No. Civilians should prepare for all-out war with Russia. Now, to all those people who scoffed and said, "Oh no, that Russia will never invade the United States. No, that'll never happen. War won't happen on our soil." So I saw it in visions, plural. It's coming. It's coming. I'm not trying to be proud. I'm just saying this is the title of this article. The West must prepare for an all-out war with Russia in the next 20 years, a NATO official has claimed. Now, they always put that at a high number. Lower that. It'll be sooner than later. They don't just throw information like that out there. We have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace. And that's why we, NATO forces, are preparing for a conflict with Russia. But the discussion is much wider. It is also the industrial base and also the people that have to understand they play a role. The chairman of NATO's military committee, this goes back to preparing, and that includes hand-to-hand combat training, stealth training, camouflage training, okay? Not everything is about target practice. You got to use your brain. People have to understand they play a role. That's the end of that article. Next article, it's not about war, but a different kind of war right here on the home front here in the U.S. Title says it all, really. USA Today article, as folks freeze to death in the Midwest. An Ohio pastor is charged for offering shelter. Persecution, that Christian persecution, fifth seal. It's persecution and martyrdom. That's what the fifth seal is about. And I told y'all, what was it? Late last year, I think, I said that fifth seal is popping. I'm seeing an increase in Christian persecution globally. Whose responsibility is it to protect the unhoused when it's freezing outside? The city, the state, homeless shelters, the church? Hold that thought for a minute. Winter is officially here with back-breaking heavy, wet snow and a surge of Arctic air. Temps in Milwaukee are not expected to rise to the low double digits until Wednesday. Some people are still without power from last week's snowstorm. The unhoused become more vulnerable when wind chills are in the single digits. So they're talking about certain cases that have passed away because of these conditions. Maybe more don't, because of cases like Ohio pastor who opened his church doors because the homeless shelters were packed, only to be issued 18 zoning law violations related to keeping his church open to people who needed a warm place to sleep. Chris Abel, pastor of Dad's Place in Bryan, Ohio, was arraigned in court last Thursday because he kept his church open 24/7 to provide warmth to the unhoused. Ohio law prohibits residential use in first-floor buildings in a business district. Since the church is zoned as a central business, the building is restricted from allowing people to eat or sleep on the property. This is how I worship my God, and I just want to be able to worship my God, Abel said. Homeless suicide rate is unacceptable. That's another article kind of plugged in, but I think you get the idea. As for the earth itself, my bones hurting this weather. The 1.5 degree climate goal may be deader than a doornail, and scientists are bitterly divided over it. Remember that 1.5 degree to 2 degree climate goal that they have? Well, it's in the news again, and they're saying it's probably deader than a doornail. Somebody Southern might have said that. For years, the fight against climate change has been symbolized by one number, 1.5. Ever since countries agreed in 2015 to an ambition of restricting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, the number has become synonymous with staving off catastrophic climate change. But what if the battle to keep global warming from overshooting this limit has already been lost? Some prominent scientists argue it has, and it's irresponsible to sugarcoat the truth. For others, that view is not only wrong, but even dangerous. It was the renowned climate scientist James Hansen whose comments fueled the debate. In November, he declared that the 1.5 degree limit, deader than a doornail, saying it was shortcoming of the scientific community to not make clear to the political leaders what the situation is. The rate of global warming is accelerating, he said at the news conference in November. Now, global warming we often associate with what we can see in the air. But technically and realistically, global warming means what's happening to the actual planet under our feet and deep below. Okay. So when they say global warming, it might not have anything to do, the conversation, I mean, with the atmosphere. The earth can affect the atmosphere and it will get hotter. But as far as global warming, that really more refers to the planet, really, if you think about it. And that is what's happening. It says in November, and the world is certain to blow past 1.5 degrees of warming. Anybody who understands the physics knows that. And he's right. Hansen's words have heft. He is widely credited as the first scientist to publicly sound the alarm on climate change in the 80s. But other scientists have pushed back hard. Got to have that pushback, I guess. I've got 3 degrees in physics, and I can tell you that Jim is wrong, said Michael Mann. The problem isn't physics, it's politics. That is another problem. And political obstacles can be overcome. Really. We'll see. Yep. When they start talking about overcoming in politics, I'm just kind of just go sad. It was like, we never win anything. They don't listen. They only care about themselves. That's why they built them bunkers for themselves. Coincidentally, the tectonic plates unzipping under Tibet reveal previously unknown geologic movements. Seismic activity underneath Tibet is creating a split in one of the 2 massive tectonic plates that crashed into each other to create Mount Everest, according to a new study. The groundbreaking research sheds new light on how the Himalayas formed. Well, all of that's nice. Okay. But researchers analyzed new seismic data from 2 tectonic plates. The Indian plate, which lies beneath the Indian Ocean. We've been getting activity in the Indian Ocean too. And the Eurasian plate, which sits under Eurasia. These plates collided between 40 and 50 million years ago and formed the Himalaya mountain range, which contains Mount Everest, the Earth's highest peak above sea level. The study found that the Indian plate is undergoing a unique process known as delamination, which means its dense lower section is peeling away from the upper part. We didn't know continents could behave this way, and that is, for solid Earth science, pretty fundamental. Scientists had previously supposed tectonic plates could unzip like this. The driving force behind the phenomenon is the collision of the plates after about 60 million years, as the Indian plate has been compelled northward by currents of molten rock. A lot of that going on all over. This collision has set in motion a series of events leading to the revelation of the delamination process. The team found that the dense base of the Indian plate detached and sank into the mantle while the lighter top section continued its journey just beneath the surface. These findings challenge previous assumptions about the buoyancy of the plate, which reported that studies of the density of the mantle and crust suggest the rather buoyant Indian continental plate shouldn't sink so easily. Scientists were surprised to learn that sections of the Indian plate were submerged rather than continuing to grind along underneath the Eurasian plate. The newly proposed tear in the plate may also be influencing earthquake hazards in Tibet today. You think? A deep fracture in the Tibetan plateau known as the Kona Sangri Rift lies above the Theyre, a tantalizing hint that the tumult in the Indian plate's underbelly might somehow ripple to the surface. While any direct links to the earthquakes remain uncertain, tears and peeling of tectonic plates could affect how and where stress build, and thus the potential for quakes, probably tsunamis too. India is starting to split into, new study discovers. That's another article. We'll skip to the next one. 30 years after Northridge earthquake, public urge to prepare for next disaster. Los Angeles. That's where this article is coming from. But they're saying it's been 30 years and they want you to prepare for the next disaster, and NATO wants you to prepare, civilians to prepare for war. So this is what our future looks like. This is what it looks like. Los Angeles. Authorities Wednesday marked the 30th anniversary of Northridge earthquake by urging residents to prepare for future it's probably a typo, tremblers and other natural disasters. Reminding them of the devastation that resulted from the historic marker. How do you say something bad is about to happen without saying something bad is about to happen? The magnitude 6.7 Northridge earthquake struck in the early morning hours of January 17, 1994. After the dust settled, at least 57 people were dead. Some put the death toll at 61. And 11,846 people in Los Angeles, Orange, and Ventura counties were treated at hospitals. Property losses were pegged at $40 billion. It was the costliest disaster in U.S. history. Today, as we commemorate the 30th anniversary of the Northridge earthquake, an event that forever altered the landscape of our great city and the lives of so many, we stand together to reflect on not only one of the most significant events in our city's history, but also the lessons it has taught us about community preparedness and the critical role of first responders. See? Preparedness, that word keeps coming up, and I don't believe in coincidences. Now, we've been having a lot of really major earthquakes last 24 hours, like the Mariana Islands. We had one in China today. There was one in Alaska a few days back, along with pretty much the entire west coast of South America was lit up yesterday with pretty big quakes. You can see that there was a lot of pressure on the planet the last 24 hours. So when you read articles like that, like what they're trying to say in California, and then you hear mystery in Sacramento neighborhood, neighbors describe hearing unexplained explosions. This was 2 days ago. It even came with like these flashes of light behind, that came with it. It's letting off energy. And when there's a lot of pressure under the earth, it can get that powerful that it'll, as it releases that pressure and you hear that boom, it can release a flash of light, releasing that energy. It's not just something you hear and feel. Not always. That's why you have things like earthquake lights, because that pressure, it affects the air around it. It starts crackling. We're expected to have some pretty major flooding. We just went through the freeze and then we turn right around. I'm trying to call people to give my kids a ride back and forth to work the next few days because I'm terrified of this. I'm terrified of bringing that little bitty car of mine. It's a Honda. It'll suck water up into the engine. The mechanics told me that's just how it is. So I'm afraid to just drive through a little puddle. But yeah, I know the rain was pretty bad earlier. It's off and on now. But we're going to wrap it up with this last article to let you know what our Earth is doing. And this is very strange article. But I mean, what was it, couple years ago? The CDC had zombie guidelines, actual zombie guidelines, right? Anyway, this title is An Ancient Zombie Virus from Siberian Permafrost Has Been Resurrected. Ancient zombie virus from Siberian permafrost has been... Doesn't that sound like some apocalyptic movie? This is why people have such a disconnect and they don't want to believe, because they think only things like this can happen in a movie. but it's not just in the movies. Movies are really often derived from what's really possible. But yes, with these, you notice it's also a thing with the ice melting from the Antarctic, that they're saying certain diseases, bacterias, and viruses are coming back with it. Okay. But it says, oh no, no, it didn't just come back on its own. It says scientists have revived several strains, ancient virus taken from samples of Russia's Siberian permafrost, according to a study published in February. Oh, this didn't just happen on its own. Ooh, this is bad. See, they're just unleashing on us. Oh my gosh. All right. I have to go, but just know that even though we couldn't talk face to face or chat to chat this time, that I'm thinking of you. I love you. And I'm always glad to just hang out. This is the best I can do today. In a few days, it'll be a lot more sunny. And for the weekend, I got my dad and one of my childhood friends coming to visit me from my hometown. And it's just going to be a really nice birthday. So, anywho, I love y'all. God bless you all. And have a safe and blessed day. All right.